Get ready for one more sale. Inspiring you with ideas through powerful and engaging interviews with top performers of their field. Now, join us as we discuss techniques and strategies of the coolest and most successful people on the planet.
Check out our sponsors, Direct Mortgage Loans. Listen, these guys are committed. They provide outstanding service. I know personally because I work with them. They are also licensed in 22 states, so make sure you check them out and see if they can do work with you. Listen, they not only will take amazing care of your clients, they're based on building lifelong relationships with our buyers, our sellers, as well as us as realtors. They're looking for partners, and they're providing the best resources, training, and knowledge the industry has to offer. So if you're interested in partnering up with somebody that's really innovative, check them out. Their website is directmortgageloans.com, or you can reach them at 888-604-2525. Sales Masters, welcome to episode number 29. And this week, we are crushing it again. We have Dianna Kokoszka, who is the CEO of MAPS Coaching. Imagine that. We just keep getting better and better. Every episode is unbelievable. So we're going to get into an amazing interview with Dianna, and she just talks to us about mindset, and she talks to us about anticipation, how being or anticipating where to be is what the most successful people on the planet do. And she also said something that really struck a chord with me. She said we really have to be careful where we get our information. It really made me go back now and think and say, wow, what an honor it is for me here doing these podcast episodes to be able to interview the type of talented people and just amazing people that I talk to and pick their brain and get this information, guys, that I can now share with you. So what a gift that is, and how humbling that is for me. So I'm super excited to share this interview. Another thing, I'm excited to let you know that we're going to be going weekly again. So keep your eyes on the podcast. We're going weekly again. I'm extremely excited. Got some amazing interviews coming for you. And I guess you can check it out as well on the podcast blog site. You guys rock. Hey guys, it's David Hill here with one more sale, Path to Mastery podcast. And as always, we are really taking it to the next level this time because I have with you guys, you're not going to believe this, I have Dianna Kokoszka. And you guys know Dianna. She is the CEO of MAPS Coaching. MAPS is, I understand, the largest coaching organization right now in the world with over 10,000 clients. And if you guys know Dianna, she's just amazing. So Dianna, I just want to first off say thank you for taking the time to spend with us right now.
Absolutely, David. Whatever I can do. As you know, the things I'll be sharing are things that I've learned from other people, from books. No one succeeds alone, right?
Oh, absolutely, without question. And when I think about you, Dianna, I'll tell you, the first thing that really comes to my mind, I was thinking about this interview, and I'm like, what is it about Dianna? And I just, mindset. To me, I just think that you're all about the mindset. Is that right? Or what are your thoughts on when I say that?
Well, I appreciate that because mindset is 90% of your success. I believe that there's lots of people that are successful, and I've been studying successful people for quite a while. And of course, every great success is an accumulation of thousands of ordinary efforts that no one sees or appreciates, and then all of a sudden you show up successful. I think it's the way that we think. Successful people anticipate. They anticipate what's going to happen. They anticipate what could possibly go incorrect. They anticipate what their customers are going to need, and they literally get there first. My dad taught me a long time ago, David, that the people that make the most money in life is figuring out where money's exchanging hands and getting in the middle of it, right? So like selling real estate, well, find a seller and make certain that you help them and connect the buyer. You're right in the middle of the transaction.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So when you talk about people being able to anticipate, how is somebody able to do that? Can you dig deeper on that for us?
Well, yeah, I think the big thing is on anticipation is what could possibly go wrong and what could possibly go right, and how do you capitalize on both? How do you stop the one thing from happening, and how do you capitalize on everything that's going correct and gain from it? You know, when I bring people together, like our direct reports, I'm always telling them, if you have a great idea, get me involved on the front end and then again on the back end. It's called the 10-80-10 rule. You spend 10% of the time on the project up front as the leader, then 80% the people do, then they bring it back and you plus it with 10%. So leadership is always about plussing it because of the anticipation. Let me give you a great example. When you can anticipate what someone needs, for the seller, you know, you list the house, and you know that they want to know after every showing what happened, what did they think, and you anticipate that they're going to want to know that. So you set up a system at the beginning. So before the people go in, maybe you have where they actually write down comments for the seller. So when they come home, they actually see the comments. I mean, what are you doing to anticipate what people want to know? And then how do you help solve that challenge so it's no longer a problem? See, every problem you see, successful people make it a plan, and then they just follow the plan. Then it's not about the problem, it's about the activities. And those activities are things that you actually anticipated, the mindset, if you will. The mindset, to me, it's about how we think. It's about possibility thinking. It's about being optimistic, because optimism is one quality most associated with success and happiness than any other quality. And gosh, attitude is an expression of your values, your beliefs, your expectations. So when people have a great attitude, that means that their values are great, their beliefs are great, and their expectations are great. Because after all, if you didn't care at all what anyone else thought about you or what happened in your life, would you do anything differently to change your life?
Yeah, that's a great point. Most of our listeners, Diane, if not all of our listeners right now, are in the real estate arena, either selling real estate or investing in real estate. What would you say to somebody if they said, you know, people can get stuck, right? They're kind of stuck. And I know with MAPS, obviously, you know, creating MAPS, the largest organization in the world, you've had a lot of success. So what would you say to that agent that's kind of like on the sidelines right now? Like, how do I take it? How do I get to that next step, that next level, or break through that ceiling?
Well, number one, I think that anybody that wants to break to a new ceiling has to look in the mirror and realize that you can't get to better until you get to different. What are we going to change in our life? Because nothing's going to happen unless we change something. And it's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to what happens to you that determines how you feel. And as I believe, your thoughts lead to your feelings lead to your actions lead to results, and results lead to the programming of your mind, whether you believe that you're great or that you're good or that you're not good. I mean, everything comes from our mind. Everything is important, whether it be setting up a strategy or writing out a business plan or even writing out a script. Whatever comes out of your mouth, you've thought about before. And in order to get to the next level, we're going to have to, one, take responsibility for everything. In fact, we're going to have to take extreme ownership of what happens in our life. So many people, David, want to blame other people instead of looking in the mirror and saying, I am where I am today because I've chosen to be here. Everything has been based on the decisions that we make in life. And every decision either propels us forward or keeps us stuck in our track, or some of them actually take us backwards. It's about the way that we think. Now, I'm going to take another step and just tell you that every single person has a story. And that story is what we live out every day. See, something happens to us, and it doesn't matter what it is. It happens every second. And we have a reaction to it. Because our mind is a judging machine. We're judging everything. We walk into a house and we go, oh, I like the color of the paint. I don't like it. I like the carpet. I don't like it. I like the vaulted ceilings. I don't like them. I mean, we can't help ourselves. That's who we are. And once we have a reaction, we have a judgment. Once we have a judgment, we make up a story. Oh, this house will sell fast. Oh, this house won't sell at all. Oh, my gosh, this house needs to be painted. I mean, we have stories. Now, the way that our brain is hooked up, it has this thing called the Reticular Activating System. It's called a RAS for short. And that RAS literally will only search out and gather evidence to support our thinking, to support the story that we made up. Now, once that happens, we're predicting our future based upon that story. So I tell people, if you don't like your life, just make up a new story. It's an illusion anyway. Pick a good one, right? We get to decide. I've had people say to me, oh, my gosh, that seller doesn't like me, or that buyer doesn't like me. And I go, well, that's your story. What if you changed your story? I mean, is that 100% true? And most of the time it's not. So by changing our story, what happens, because the RAS is literally made there so we don't die in like a few seconds, right? There's about 2 million bits of information happening around us at all times. That's like 2 million pieces of confetti coming down upon us if we were in a parade. Well, you reach out and your brain will only allow you to pick up 134 bits of information. Now, I've heard this differently from different people. Some people say 135, some people say 140. I heard 134 in all the studies that I've done. Now, millions of people, I know, brilliant people, 150. Well, the question is, did you pick up the same bits of information that I did? You couldn't possibly do that. Why? There's too many bits of information. I'm going to pick out what's important to me, and you're going to pick up to benefit the story that you made up. So since most of our listeners are realtors, it really doesn't matter what business you're in, David. What happens is you go into a restaurant, say, and you're having a great evening. Boy, you enjoy the food, you enjoy the company, you have great conversation. You get into real estate and you go back to the same restaurant with the same people. You're still enjoying the food. You're still enjoying the great conversation. And yet 10 tables away, you hear somebody whisper, I want to sell my house. Why did you pick up on that, and how were you able to pick up on it? Because you told your RAS what was important. That RAS is like your Google search engine. You know how all those blue things come up when you type it in, right? And it gives you all those choices. Well, it only gives you choices that support the question that you asked, the bits of information that you wanted to know about. That's what your RAS does. It's like a genie in the bottle. It's going to give you what you're asking for. So if you say nobody likes me, it's going to give you more people that don't like you. If you say, oh, bad things happen to me, it's going to give you more bad things to have happen to you. So the story that we make up, the stories we tell our brain goes, oops, let me go find that for you. And it seeks out what you told it you wanted, even though you didn't want it. See, we got to be careful how we talk to ourselves.
You are listening to One More Sale.
So let's say you're one of those people, like a lot of us are, frankly, and you may have some stories that, you know, maybe aren't serving you well, right? Your outcomes. What are some steps? Like, where do you start? How do you change those stories? I mean, it's one thing to say change them, but I mean, it's not that simple. It's just saying, okay, I'm going to flip a switch. So where do we start, Dianna?
Oh, I love that. Great, great question. Number one, it's in the way that we speak to ourselves. See, we have neurons in our brain, and we have more neurons than there are stars in the galaxy. We have neurons connected by an axon that's about 1/100th the thickness of your hair. And it goes from one neuron, the thought passes, goes to another neuron, and it explodes, and it releases a chemical. Every thought that we have releases a chemical that is stored in our body. And then that chemical allows us to feel a certain way. Let me just give you an explanation. When you think insecure thoughts, do you feel insecure?
Yeah, of course.
And then when you feel insecure, might you have more insecure thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we get caught up in that body, mind, body type situation where we're going back and forth and back and forth. Well, what happens, David, is a chemical is released, and that chemical being stored in our system. So let's look at chemicals. If you drank a lot of alcohol, might you become an alcoholic if you did it, if that chemical was in your system all the time?
I would say yes.
And if you took drugs, might you get hooked on drugs or that chemical that the drugs have?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and so, see, most people don't realize that we can become addicted to our thoughts because that cell craves the chemical that we've been giving to it over and over and over again. So in order to change, awareness is the first key. Awareness that you choose to change it. And so awareness is the first key. Then we've got to change the thought pattern because the more we have a thought, the stronger that action gets. It's like we're hardwired because neuroscience tells us that nerve cells that fire together wire together. Now, the greatest part about this, it also tells us that nerve cells that no longer fire together no longer wire together. So if I want to have the opposite thought, and I know I'm addicted to my thoughts, every time I think that person doesn't like me, I have to think and say the opposite in my head. It doesn't make it go away. It just means the more I say the opposite, the stronger and the more I'm going to hardwire myself in that direction. It doesn't make it so. I mean, that would be crazy to think that's the way it works. You've got to do it over and over and over and over again. Much like when I was a kid, brushing my teeth. I mean, did your parents ever have to say, go brush your teeth? Or did you just do it automatically?
Yeah, it just became a habit after a while, right? You get conditioned to brush your teeth. At least I am now.
And yet, now, I mean, I couldn't imagine not doing that. Yeah. And yet as a child, how many times did our parents have to remind us? And then once we did it over and over and over again, oh my goodness, then it became a habit. It's because we literally have 3 brains in one. Number 1, we have the brain that helps us learn, okay? And that is in the forefront of our head. The neocortex is what it's called. And that's the part that we learn, and it loves to learn. Now, if we just learn, big deal. Once we apply that and we do what we've learned, it goes into the limbic system of the brain where we do it. So we learn to brush our teeth. We learn that we need to brush our teeth, and we do it over and over and over again. And once we do it so much, it goes into the cerebellum, which is at the back of the brain, and that's the interesting part. That's when it becomes a habit. Now you're being that. So we go from having it to doing it to being it. And once we are being a person that brushes our teeth all the time, we never have to think about it again. We just do it automatically because we know that's the thing to do. The thoughts are the same way. Change your thoughts through awareness and literally being on purpose to change those. In Bold, we give everyone a purple bracelet. And every time they have a thought they choose to change, they take the purple bracelet and say 2 or 3 times the opposite as they put it on the other wrist. Well, the thought comes back because, after all, we keep thinking the same thought, so we put it back on the other wrist and say 3 or 4 times the opposite. And we keep doing that to change the way that we think. See, most people, they say, unconsciously, you have about 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Once again, I've heard different amounts. Whatever it is, the sad part is that 90% of those thoughts that you had today are the same thoughts you had yesterday and the day before that and the day before that. So why would anything ever change if we keep thinking the same? Nothing will change, and we until we change the way we think about it. Once we change the way we think about it, we'll feel differently about it, we'll act differently around it, and we'll get different results.
I'm curious too, when times are tough and you're dealing with challenges, I know we all deal with our own challenges, obviously at different levels. What do you do to keep focused and just keep moving forward?
I think the biggest thing is all of us have challenges. Some people call them problems. I like to be known as a fixer. I love to solve problems because, see, once I look at a problem and I look at a plan and I go, wow, if I did this, this, and this, then the problem would go away. Now you just follow a plan. And it's about you focus on the plan, not the problem. And when you do that, you don't ever have a problem when you just put a plan in place.
Absolutely. Dianna, what's the one thing that you really want our listeners to take from this interview?
I think the biggest thing I would say to people is watch who you listen to. You know, I was fortunate enough to grow up with people like Zig Ziglar and Cavett Roberts and Norman Vincent Peale, those types of people I got to meet, had them into our home. And Zig Ziglar told me one time a story where he was a salesperson and he was going from one city to another and he got lost. It was like Melbourne, Alabama, as I recall. Now, whatever it is, okay? So he's going along and he stops and he asks this guy, hey, how do I get to this city? The guy drew it out for him. And boy, Zig said he got back in his car and he followed it precisely. Now, he's always been somebody that says you are where you are because that's where you choose to be. Well, he ended up 45 minutes further away from the city than where he was when he met the guy that gave him the directions. And he said, you know what? I know I wasn't in that at where I was because that's where I chose to be. I was there because I listened to somebody that really didn't know what they were talking about. So I would say, watch who you listen to. Get into programs that actually have results. Learn from people that have been very successful. Study them. Anticipate in your life what is going great and keep it going. Anticipate what is going bad. And when I say anticipate, it's actually reflection. But anticipate what other people need and start putting that into the service that you give, and you'll always be successful. Watch your thoughts.
Love it, love it. Final thing, I know Bold, you said you guys have 100,000 people now have gone through Bold. Is that accurate?
Yes. Can you imagine there are football stadiums out there that could not hold all of the registrations that we have had through Bold. It's business objective, a life by design. It's something we even have it for business now, Bold for Business.
So why should someone sign up for Bold, or how does someone sign up for Bold? Better question.
Well, number one, because it has proven results. And we can give them all the statistics that they would like. They can contact MAPS, M-A-P-S, coaching.com, mapscoaching.com. And in the businesses, we have lots of testimonials where the people's profits have gone up 297% on average when they take Bold. That the average agent in 7 weeks, if you're in real estate, sells 14.6 contracts in 7 weeks is what they write.
Love it. I know I've done it multiple times. And final question, Dianna, is how should our listeners use what you talked about today on their path to sales mastery?
Oh, I think just watch the way that you think, watch who you listen to, and make certain that you're focusing on a story that supports the results you choose to get. And if you don't like that story, make up a new one. Get to Bold. Connect with your customers, listen to your customers, stay in touch with your customers, and you'll gain rewards like you never thought were possible.
Brilliant, Dianna. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you so much.
If you love podcasts, I'm certain you're going to love audiobooks, and Audible.com is the world's largest platform of audiobooks. If you're interested in checking out the book we talked about today for free in audio, just go to davidsfreebook.com davidsfreebook.com. Yes, again, davidsfreebook.com will get you a free 30-day trial on Audible. And don't forget to check out our sponsors, Direct Mortgage Loans, at www.directmortgageloans.com, or feel free to give them a call, 888-604-2525. And don't forget to mention Path to Mastery.
You are listening to One More Sale with your host, David I. Hill, author of the Sales Playbook. Get your copy at www.thesalesplaybook.net.